Good morning.
Good morning.
And aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome to Unity of Kona. First of all, I would like to begin our service by saying our daily or monthly affirmation, which should be on the screen behind me. And if we would all say it together. I am free to be my best self at all times. I am grateful. And now let's move on to, we'll sing our opening song, which is Stand Together. If you'd please stand. And
something great is happening. Love has taken hold and it won't let it go of us now. Something here is calling us forward up in motion with drops in one ocean for long. Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. With the dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Shake it so the world is waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now. Oh, oh, oh. Every day's a chance you can do something amazing, to feel your passion blazing and shine. Paint with every vision and dance in new directions, explode to new heights in your mind. I will rise up with you today, lift up my voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. The dream of the highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Shake it so the world is waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now. Oh, oh, oh. One dream, one voice, one heart, one word, one dream, one voice, one heart, one word. Stand together, one dream, stand, one voice, stand, one heart, stand, one world. Stand together, with the dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Shake hips for the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now.
so, and with that, I have asked a special friend of mine, my wife, to read the daily word. Okay?
I remember we've been dating for about 8 months, and he ran into some friends and introduced me as his friend. Didn't go unnoticed.
Now you're special.
Yeah, now I'm a special friend. 18 years later. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, today is Sunday, July 23rd, in case you didn't know, which I didn't. Divine revelations awaken me to greater understanding. Daily routines may keep me paused from fully experiencing life. As I move through my activities, I may be half conscious of my actions. Being awake is a state of consciousness. Still, when I remain present and wholly engaged in each moment and every activity, I begin to experience spiritual awakenings in every instant. Practices such as meditation, inspirational reading, and attending sacred services may aid in deepening my spiritual understanding. Spiritual awakening occurs when I dedicate myself to the awareness of spirit active in my life. Engaging in daily interactions and activities can also be catalysts to higher levels of consciousness. The Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. Isaiah 60:19. And then we repeat that, and it's okay. And if you'd repeat after me, or say it with me, sorry. Divine revelations awaken me to greater understanding.
Thank you, Jamie.
And now I invite you to visualize our sanctuary as a beautiful heart. And we see this heart moving in and around and through each one of us. And moving back into Sunday school with Kayla and our children. And in these moments, I invite you to open your heart and let it be filled with all the love, the caring and compassion that you have for yourself and each other. Breathing into that heart space, we allow it to be filled. And in these moments, if you know of anyone in need of prayer, see them in our heart. And if you know of any circumstance in your life or in our world in need of prayer, see them in our heart as we say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And now I invite you to get comfortable where you are. Close your eyes if that feels right to you. And we'll begin our time of centering and prayer by just breathing. So let us take in a deep breath, the very breath of life that is God. And we hold it for just a moment. And as we exhale, we begin to relax. And breathing in again deeply. As we exhale this time, we just quiet our mind, setting aside anything that keeps us from being here right now. And once more, we breathe in. And as we exhale this time, we rest in the consciousness of our heart. And we just relax our breath, breathing into this beautiful heart space that is filled with love, gratitude, and appreciation for life, for living, for being here right now. In these moments, we affirm this truth. I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of God in me. I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of God in me. And affirm this silently in your mind and in your heart. I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of God in me. We know this is true. We affirm that all things work together for good, for those who love God. And the love we have within our heart, within our body or mind or spirit, is greater than any circumstance, any experience outside of ourselves. We breathe and relax. We breathe and we know that God is the source of all good, of all supply within us, around us, and through us. So in these moments I invite you, as we go into a time of quiet prayer, to just let your light shine, to let it shine on any darkness or circumstance that is in your life. And we allow that light of spirit to shine forth right here and right now in the silence. I invite you now to take another deep breath. And as we exhale this time, we allow our light to shine. We allow that spirit, that light that is us, to move through us in gratitude and appreciation for our life, for every cell in our being, for every hope, every dream, and every vision that we have for ourselves. We are grateful. And so we say, thank you, Father, Mother, God, for blessing us, loving us, and reminding us of who we are. And so it is. Amen. Yay! We're so grateful to have everyone here. And today's a special treat because we have two people from our congregation who are going to share their ideas, because this is our theme of freedom this month. So they're going to share their experience, their love of life, which they both have incredibly. So I'm going to start with Jim. So Jim Nugent is our first speaker of today, and we'll just thoroughly enjoy it. I love you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. When I was first asked to do this, I kind of wrestled with the idea of freedom. And I thought that, you know, if you'd asked me to talk about freedom maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago or something like that, I probably would have talked about July 4th and flags and fireworks and parades and things like that. But today I'm gonna talk a little bit about some other things that have taken place. And so, you know, one of the things that I did is, you know, and I was asked this back the first part of July. And so I would write a little bit, and I'd think, no, that's not what I want to say. And then I'd write something else, and I'd throw that away. And so finally I went to my search engine, and I looked up freedom. And I came across a couple of things that were of interest. And one said, freedom starts with a principle of self-control, also known as self-ownership. In a free society, each and every person has legal control or ownership of their own body and mind. And then I saw a video by John Kennedy. And he said in one of his speeches about freedom that man was born to be free and independent. And so with that said, I'm going to go back about 3 years to January 2015. And Jamie and I were here. We had just arrived on the Big Island, and we gathered with family, with our daughter and son-in-law and his parents down at Quinn's, and we were going to have dinner. And so Jamie and I were there, and Dick and Linda were there, and we sat down. And our daughter comes in, she's carrying a bag, and she puts that down on the ground, and we talked and hugged and kissed and so on. And then pretty soon she stood up and she put the bag on the table and she started to pass out gifts. And each one of the parents got a gift. And there's something about standing up here and me speaking that I get a little emotional. But so the gifts were, we each had an individual gift, and it was wrapped, and I unwrapped mine, and mine was the ABCs of being a Kansas Jayhawk. And being a University of Kansas grad and a staunch Jayhawk supporter, I thought, boy, that's interesting, but I'm not quite sure how it, do I really need to read something like that? And then, but each grandparent got a book that pertained to them. And so it all started to dawn on us that we were going to be grandparents. And that was going to happen in August, was the due date. So if we fast forward a little bit, at this time I'm working for a software company. I'm selling software for a company that's located in Orange County. I live in San Diego. I cover a territory in the Midwest that goes from Minnesota to Texas and from Ohio to the Rocky Mountains. So I'd get up on a Monday and I'd fly out of town and I'd go to Dallas or Houston, Chicago or whatever. And and after a day I'd check into a hotel and I'd turn on the TV and I would watch one of the news networks, CNN, NBC, Fox, that sort of thing. But once, August came and the birth of the grandbaby, and then October came, and by that time I had lost all interest in doing what I was doing. And we had talked to our financial guy, and he said, absolutely, you could retire, you're in good shape. And so I did that. And so I left the job. I was liberated. Actually, I was fired. because selfishly, I wanted the severance package and insurance and so on. But what was really interesting is that afterwards, I talked to my sister. And my sister's a Catholic nun, and she's also a therapist. And she said, why don't you ask God to guide you in your next steps? And that was really key, because once I started to do this, and I'm going to read, some of this because I tried to do it free form and it took me twice as long than the time allocated, so I'm going to try and stay, with what I've written down here. But, what I did is that I found a couple of different affirmations that I say every day. And one is, I'm God, I'm sovereign, and I'm free. And the other one is, I am here, I am ready, I am open, please guide me. And so I was guided to take a course in energy healing, and that led to my finishing my work as a Reiki master, Reiki practitioner and a Reiki master. And that led to another class about working with chakras and how to clear chakras and that sort of thing. And that led me on to another class that helped me do spiritual readings. But by asking for guidance, I was led to read and to start to watch different things. And I became aware of other areas of interest. I can't tell you exactly what I read or what I watched, but I knew that I was being guided. I was being shown truth. I would meet people or experience synchronicities in my life. I knew I was moving closer to my God, my creator, my source. I experienced it when we sold our house in San Diego. I started to realize that we are all one, we're all connected. And so I would talk to the plants and the trees, and I would ask them to bring us a buyer that would care for them the way that we had cared for them. I even asked the trees to bring rain to San Diego. I think it worked. I don't think I was the only person asking for rain for San Diego, but I think I had a very small. But I wanted to ask them to bring a buyer that would take care of them. We had a number of orchids that we were going to leave behind, and we wanted to make sure that they were taken care of because they had prospered so. They had grown, they had flowered, bloomed, they were beautiful. And so we sold it to a young couple, and one of the things that they said is that we love your backyard. We love your house. It was just perfect, but I felt as if we were being guided. I was also being guided during this time to meditate more often And during my meditation, I would ask for my third eye to be open because I wanted to see the truth. But I also asked for discernment so I could tell the difference between truth and non-truth. I also started working with a pendulum. And for me, a pendulum, for a yes or a truth answer, it moves in a clockwise fashion. For non-truth or no, I get it moves in a counterclockwise fashion. I was guided on what to read, people to talk to, what was to be trusted, and when I was being lied to. As I became more aware, I realized I couldn't watch mainstream media, which was really interesting on election evening because as one of the, we had on CNN, then we'd move to MSNBC and Fox and so on, and I remember one of the announcers said something, and I just jumped up and I said, he's lying. And I believe that. So why am I telling you about this? Well, because I believe we're being asked to see the truth. God wants us to be free. God wants us to see the truth. He wants to see that each and every person has legal control or ownership of their own mind and their own body. And if you don't believe me, ask a pendulum. Ask your own higher self. Ask your intuition. If I've spoken the truth this morning, I ask you to take these steps only because we all need to open and become more aware of the world around us. We're peaceful people. We don't need to be at war for the last 16 years and additional years going forward. So we're being asked to open. We're being asked to awaken. It is more important now than at any time in our lives. And so I'd like to close with, God bless you, each and every one of you, on your journey to awaken. Namaste.
We've been wonderful. Yes. Let's give Jim another round of applause for becoming his true self right up here in front of us. And now we're going to have Cindy Ellinger, who was raised in another religion and has come to unity and freedom for sure.
Yeah, you can hear about it.
All right.
Thank you. Freedom to be me. Freedom to be you.
Yay.
To be our highest self. To be our real selves. Who we were really meant to be. But who am I? And who are you? We are born in this world innocent. And we're free. So what comes along to mess that all up? And we take on, get totally off track. Well, everything you have seen, you have heard, you have felt, you've experienced is recorded in your brain from the time you were in your mother's womb till this very minute. And those things can affect you. And they can make you see the world differently. They can make you see your relationships differently. So how do we get back on track? I'll give you a for instance. Let's say when you were about 5, your uncle threw you in the deep end of the pool to teach you to swim. So from then, that day forward, you said, I'm afraid of the water. I'm afraid I'm going to drown. That caused that. Or maybe you were married to someone who just put you down, put you down, put you down, put you down, put you down until you started believing them. So all these things, whether you can remember them or not, have an effect on us. And so how do we release this constructed self? Because really it's constructed. We've taken these things on. So how do we release them? How do we get them gone? Well, I'm going to share with you today a few ways on my journey that have helped me. I have not arrived, but oh, I'm so much better. One thing that has helped me are words. I believe with all my heart that words are alive and they're powerful and they make things happen. You just think about words that are spoken, that you read, that you hear, that you speak, what an effect they can have. And so I have believed that for a long time. One time I heard Maya Angelou say that she believed words were alive and that you had to be really careful what people said in your home because they could get into your couch and your wallpaper and your carpet and eventually get inside of you. Well, I'm not sure they get in the carpet and the wallpaper, but I know that words get inside of you. My constructed self believed for many years, till I was in my 20s, that I had no talents. None at all. I wasn't really good at anything. And this was really hard on me because everyone I knew was good at something, had talents. And yet I got left out of the deal. So you can imagine what that does to your self-esteem when you think you have no talents and you are not really good at anything. I believe that the way I got that way is my wonderful parents who thought they were doing the best thing for us never told us we were good at anything. In fact, it was very discouraged in our home that you thought very highly of yourself because, you were just going to be conceited. We'd make jokes about, oh man, your head's going to get so big you won't be able to get through the door. So to be a good Christian, you couldn't have any good thoughts about yourself. Well, this changed in my 20s. A gal came to our church that was new. She was from a different area and she moved there, and we were going to team teach. And being a team teacher, you do whatever the other teacher says to do because you want the kids. You want to have this united front with the children. So she would start every Sunday morning saying things, affirmations. I didn't even know what an affirmation was then. She would say affirmations and have us all repeat them after us. And she would say things like, I am a beautiful person. And then we'd have to say, I am a beautiful person. I am talented and gifted. And I'd just be thinking, oh my gosh. But I'd say, I am talented and gifted. I am created by God. Just on and on, every Sunday morning. I really truly wanted to gag. Because, the way I was raised, this was not a good thing. But you know what? I can remember. I was standing in my kitchen after a few weeks of this, and in my head came the thought, I'm a good hostess. I constantly had people over for dinner. I love doing it. I love making these big meals. Don't think you're going to get invited to our house because I got over it. But, and I realized that I was a good storyteller to children. I had taught children in Sunday school since 7th grade, and I was a good storyteller. I tell you, it changed my life. I felt so much better. I had talents. And I realized from that day forward, words are alive. Words are powerful. I can use words. Another time, and I was about in my 30s, I decided to use my words to help me. I had always been a cautious child. I didn't want to get hurt. And in my 30s, I realized this is keeping me from doing things I want to do. I want to be adventurous. I want to do fun, exciting things. And yet I was scared I'd get hurt. And I thought, I'm going to change this. So you know what I did? I started calling myself Courageous Cindy. I just go around saying, I'm Courageous Cindy. I am Courageous Cindy. I'm Courageous Cindy. And one day somebody introduced themselves to me and I said, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Courageous Cindy. And they looked at me funny. But I'm working on my courage. And you know, that totally changed me. I have led since my mid-30s the most adventurous life. I mean, James and I have done things our kids have thought we were going to get ourselves killed. We have kayaked. We lived in Washington State, and we have kayaked all around those islands, and you know, the currents change. And I will admit, there has been a time when I got out of that little kayak and I kissed the ground, but and I have been afraid. But those memories are so awesome. We took our little orange Element out here, a little Honda Element, 2 times from the Canadian border where we lived in Washington State all the way down to Cabo, and we lived in a tent for 3 months. It was awesome. Books are another thing that can really help, you know, as you're guided, as Jim was talking about, as you're guided, God guides you, your spirit guides you to certain books. And books can be really helpful. I had a problem saying no. I had no boundaries. And, you know, if you've ever been there, you know, you could run yourself ragged. Because you're so busy saying yes, you just can work yourself right into the earth. And I can remember being so resentful sometimes of my 3 children, my husband, and my church. Because I said, I'd say to myself, all they ever do is take from me. And you know what? In reality, it was my problem. Because I was the one saying yes, 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 yes. And I was led to this Boundaries book. And it's called Boundaries, When to Say Yes, When to Say No, by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And that thing changed me and helped me to learn to say no. Yes, it was hard at first. I mean, if I said no, maybe no one would like me anymore. But I got through it, and you know what? I could say no. And I don't deal with all that resentment. My constructed self had no boundaries, you know. And how did I get that way? I think it's from the church that I went to. Blame it on the church. We were taught my whole life and that to have true joy, you use the letters. J was for Jesus. You put Jesus first. O was for others. Everyone else in the universe became second. And third was you, if you could manage to get yourself on the list, you know. Well, that did not bring me joy. It brought me frustration and resentment. The third thing, and I'm going to bunch 3 things all together because it took a lot to get me over this hurdle a little bit. Anyway, attending Unity or attending a New Thought church has helped greatly in being my highest self. Journaling my feelings and being honest for once about how I was feeling and being able to work through things and let them go. And meditation, being able to take and acknowledge those difficult feelings that I was having and be able to release them and get better. My big thing that has been so hard and caused the most pain and most discomfort in my life was being a perfectionist. And I did not know I was a perfectionist until I was in my 30s. I was reading a book and it was describing what a perfectionist was. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a perfectionist. You see, I thought perfectionists were those people that were practically perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins. And I found out that's not true. And after reading that book, it said that being a perfectionist was a slow way to die. And I thought, oh my. So I tried what I could, and what I tried when I planned things, to be perfect, and they didn't come out perfect, I would try to say, oh well, no one died. And give myself a little comfort that way. But the problem was that the church I attended from the time I was born, we strived to be like Jesus. And we believed that Jesus was perfect. And I tried to be perfect like Jesus. And all I did was fail and fail and fail. It was hard. Well, when I was about 60, I know this is a long time to be dealing with this, but better late than never, right? James and I had this huge shift in our belief system, and we left that wonderful church, and we went to a New Thought church, and it was amazing. I mean, I went and sat down, and they said things like, be kind to yourself. And I thought, what? Treat yourself like you would treat a dear friend. I thought, oh, I would never talk to a dear friend like I talk to myself. Treat yourself gently like you would a newborn baby. I mean, I would just sit and cry in these services because it was just like, I felt like I'd been holding my breath for 60 years. And now I could go, ah. It was really wonderful. Then, a few months into that, maybe even a year of starting our New Thought Church, we came to Hawaii for spend 3 months. And we came and stayed and came to church here. And Rev Deb did a series on The Gift of Imperfection by Brene Brown, another great book. And it just got me. Boy, it got me. So I went and got that book. And I learned about this perfectionism and how it affected me and how it made me respond and how it made me defensive and how it did all these things. And I thought, oh my, I finally was understanding this for the first time. And so I would journal and I would journal and I would journal and I would journal every morning before we went to the beach. I did, didn't you remember? And I would just journal and journal and journal to release this. And it was a great, great thing. But still today, this constructed me can pop up. Have you ever found that? You found like you thought you got rid of something and, it can pop up. Well, when James, I think most of you know, my husband James got hit by a car in February down on Leahy Drive. And it was very, very traumatic. He had a traumatic brain injury and I had a traumatic emotional fall apart, I guess. But it was really horrible. I thought he was dead. He was laying on his face, blood everywhere. He wasn't moving. It was a horrible, horrible thing. And you can see he's way, way better. Thank you. But that experience, and then 11 days in the hospital, I was horribly sleep deprived because I was helping him through the night, through the day. And then on top of that, my dear sweet sister died while I was in the hospital. We were in the hospital. So it was too much. That's what I felt, it was too much. And all these things came back on me. I felt insecure. I was easily offended. Every little tiny thing upset me I could hardly stand to be around myself, let alone you poor people who had to be around me. But it was horrible. So I went and met with Rev Deb, and she gave me this book. It's called The I Rest Program by Richard Miller, PhD. And it was on meditation for people who'd been through traumatic things. But I swear we've all been through traumatic things. This book was awesome. It I would be just beside myself, and I just worked myself through that book, doing the meditations, and it taught me how to acknowledge that horrible feeling that was going on, and replace it with something else and let it go. And I worked and I worked. It took several months to feel like myself again, and I'm so thrilled to feel like myself again. But so those things can come up. We're all on a spiritual journey, aren't we? All of us. And I'm sure that there are many other ways to get rid of our constructed selves and become our highest self, our best self, our real self. And the wonderful thing is Spirit, God, your upper, whatever you call it, is there to guide you to the ways that you can destruct, to get rid of that constructed self and become your highest self. So God bless you on your journey, and you're free to be you.
Okay, you're free to be you. Watch out, everybody. It's going to be fabulous. Weren't they great? Jim and Cindy. Yeah, life lessons are so fabulous. Yes, and next Sunday we're going to have Kealoha. So we're going to have the Hawaiian take on freedom. So that'll be wonderful.